I thought it was a pretty eventful Heisman ceremony. Thanks in large part to the Pavia brothers, who showed up like they were attending a mafia mixer. Look at these dudes. Rolling in if you're watching on the stream. My guys. Man, they mean business, yo. Different look. But you know what? Got to be an individual. Got to be true to who you are. Got to be authentic to who you are. You know, I'm not going to hate on somebody for who they are. I'm not going to hate on somebody, unless they're a horrible person. But I'm not here to hate on anybody for being an individual. I'm not here to hate on anybody for having a personality. Not at all. In fact, that's what I'm looking for. That's what I want to see in an athlete. That's what team content demands. Like, that dude's not only good for Vandy, he's good for team content. I understand that this dude is different. That's what makes him the player that he is. So says everybody who's ever been around him. He's running on a different sort of fuel. He's got a different chip on his shoulder. His head coach, Clark Lee, came on the show last month and dropped a great quote in response to critics who say that Diego needs to tone it down. Quote, "The world does not need a watered-down Diego Pavia." End of quote. It's a good quote. And by the way, pretty much everything Clark says, I agree with. So I'm not going to disagree with that. However, and there is a however, the Heisman Trophy presentation may have needed a slightly watered-down Diego Pavia. A slightly chilled-out Diego on Saturday night probably would have been a good idea. Even if only for one night. And to some of you, the counter would be, if not that night, then when? I would argue to that night, that was not the night. Because coming in second in the Heisman voting as a quarterback at Vandy and somebody who's been overlooked his whole life, I mean, yeah, man, you want to win. I get that. I'm not saying he should be happy with second. I'm saying it's a pretty good thing still. It's not the end of the world. It is something to celebrate. Yes, you should be disappointed. I'm not saying be happy with second, but I'm saying acknowledge the work that went into and what that guy made himself to come in second in the voting. What you don't want to do is find out that you didn't win when, frankly, most knew you were not going to win. And then it was not very close even. And then run right to Instagram to say, F all the voters, but family for life. Like, what does that mean? F all the voters.
F them picks.
F them voters.
F them picks.
F all them voters.
F them picks.
But family for life.
Family.
My man. Dude, I know you're edgy. I know you're bro-ish. It's just not a great look. Even if that's just Diego being Diego. I actually can't think of anything more opposite of Clark Lee's attitude and the vibe that he's building at Vanderbilt than hopping on IG to say, F them voters.
F them picks.
And believe me, he's defended this guy by saying, we don't need a watered-down Diego. The last thing the world needs is a watered-down Diego.
World needs plenty of...
But I think that he would have drawn the line at that. To me, the program deserved better than that. It's the first time a program ever had a Heisman finalist. This is the first time this program has ever had that type of exposure. And that's how he repped them. That's how he repped himself. You know, never mind the suit. I'm not put off by the suit. The suit is who he is. The suit is part of his individuality. I'm fine with that. The IG post, though, saying, F them voters.
F them picks.
That's something entirely different. I mean, are you sure you mean all the voters? You mean even the ones who voted for you? Because I'm pretty sure they also regret voting for you now, my dude. I guarantee none of the Fernando voters regret voting for Fernando. It just seemed like Pavia was almost playing a part more than he was being himself. Do you know what I mean? Like giving the people what they want. It's almost like Diego was trying to channel Johnny Idiot Face. Like he was trying to do a Johnny Idiot Face impression. It's like nobody told Diego that people don't actually like Johnny Idiot Face. That Johnny Idiot faced his way right out of the NFL. The Johnny Idiot Face story did not end well. I know your boys. And I know Idiot Face now is a little farther removed from his NFL career that was a bust. And now he shows up and he does content and people listen to what he says, and a good guy to party with, I guess. But Diego, you are in a different spot in your life. He's already blown his opportunity. You're trying to have an opportunity. I think you missed that part where Idiot Face's story ended terribly. That's not the vibe you want to emulate, especially not with the entire NFL watching. Like, the guy that beat you out, many think that he could be the number 1 pick overall. They're lined up to pick that guy, and not because he's kind of a happy nerd, but he's got the measurables. He's got the intangibles. He's got certain things that you don't have. Certain things that would prevent you from being selected in the first round or the second round. And maybe not till the third day, or maybe not at all. You, my guy, even though you were an incredible college player and an incredible story, you, in fact, are already a stretch as an NFL quarterback prospect to begin with. If you show up and you say all the right things and you're classy as hell, you're still a stretch. You're still a day 3 guy from everything I've seen. And if you say everything the right way and handle yourself like a pro's pro and you're a day 3 guy, what are you now? I don't think you helped yourself with that outburst. And then it wasn't just the IG post. It was the footage of him out at the club later on Saturday night with a sign reading, F Indiana.
F them picks.
F Indiana.
F them picks.
F Indiana.
F them picks.
F them voters.
Picks.
F Indiana.
F them picks.
What did Indiana ever do other than have the most amazing year ever? What do you mean F Indiana? F Indiana. You mean Indiana who's never done anything ever for decades and decades and decades until now when they pulled off the most amazing thing ever and they're a 1 seed? So yes, he has since apologized in a surprisingly thoughtful, surprisingly long post. Of course, the obvious question, are you sorry for what you said, or are you sorry that you may have just F Indiana yourself right out of the draft? I don't know. I don't know if you got caught up. I don't know if you had too much to drink. I don't know if you thought you were giving the people what they wanted. I don't know if you thought that was good for the brand. Look, what he did is not at all the end of the world. What he did may have cost him some money or maybe not. What he did may or may not have cost him a shot at the NFL. But what he did was just not smart. It wasn't smart. It was not a very good look. And what NFL teams are looking for, they understand that there are very young players coming in the league that do dumb things. They get that. But from a quarterback, they're looking for you to make smart choices. They're looking for you to make the right read. They're looking for you to look around the room and read the room. On the biggest stage, a Heisman Trophy ceremony, they expect you to handle yourself a little bit more intelligently than that. I mean, I'm just saying, it's not the end of the world. It's not. However, The dude did not rep himself or his program the way he and his program deserve to be repped on that stage. I'm not saying you need to be a complete nerd like the guy who won. That's just who he is. And I know you're not that dude. And I know part of what makes you such a good player is the way you are. However, you can still be true to yourself and be that guy without F-bombing the internet. That didn't help. I mean, if you really are in it to win it, and you really are in it to do all those things that put you in the best possible place to be successful, then you're not doing that. That's not smart. And juxtaposed against the guy who did win, that really stood out versus Fernando Mendoza, who's, say what you want about him. Little nerdy, little dorky, but honestly, one of the classier dudes ever to win a Heisman. Came off extremely well. I keep talking about this miraculous 2-year turnaround of Indiana Hoosier football because I'm in utter disbelief over the miraculous 2-year turnaround of Indiana Hoosier football. Now they've got a Heisman trophy to put next to their Big Ten championship trophy on a trophy shelf that no Hoosier thought would ever exist or need to be built. They don't need trophy shelves at IU. Not for football. Imagine Kurt Signetti coming in saying, all right, first thing we're going to do is start building shelves where all the trophies are going to go. And then somebody in the athletic department would be like, hey, coach, we really don't want to waste any money. We don't need any trophies. For what? There's still a few leftovers from the basketball program when they used to put trophies up. But the football program, oh no, there's no need for a trophy. That's why we don't have room for trophy cases or shelves. Build me some freaking cases. Then to hear Fernando at the microphone. Fernando could not have brought a more different vibe than F you voters. Listen.
I want every kid out there who feels overlooked, underestimated to know I was you. I was that kid too. I was in your shoes. The truth is, you don't need the most stars, hype, or rankings. You just need discipline, heart, and people who believe in you. And you need to believe in your own abilities. I hope this moment shows you that chasing your dreams are worth it, no matter how big or impossible they seem. God bless. Go Hoosiers. Thank you guys all.
Classy. Now again, Pavia can't be that guy. He'll never be that guy. He'll never be that guy, and I'm not asking that he be that guy. I'm not saying be more like him. Be more like him. I'm not saying that in a million years. I'm saying just don't rush to Instagram and say, F them voters.
F them picks.
But the juxtaposition is pretty dramatic. Like Fernando has got those politician vibes. But a politician you like. A politician you actually believe. A politician you think wants to help you. Not a greaseball. I'm not saying Pavia is. I'm just saying the two of them couldn't be more different, which is fine. And no, that's not a call back to his Howard Dean impression at the Big Ten Championship, because I thought that was pretty awesome also.
It sounds so beautiful. I want to give all the glory to God. We were never supposed to be in this position, but by the glory of God, the great coaches, great teammates, and we have around us, we were able to pull this off. Whoever's done to Hoosier being, and then we're going to Washington, D.C. to take back the
You guys call yourself a bunch of misfits who found the right home.
I think he was channeling
Indiana.
Howard Dean.
Why was this the right place for this group?
It's the right place for process origin.
All right, so where does that leave them? Like this guy is saying all the right things. And Diego, look, Diego's got guys like Johnny Manziel did back in the day. If you make plays and you have gigantic gonad, I'm going to use that word because Mitch Morse got a lot of positive run for using that word. Seems like a guest says it and they get more run than I do. Diego, Manziel, these are dudes with gigantic gonad.
Made my gonads itch.
Because they're not gigantic athletes, but they're fearless, man. absolutely fearless. Baker, Diego, Manziel, not all huge dudes, but the bigger the stage, the better they played. And were utterly fearless. I love guys like that. I do.
And his cojones
I'm not
were hanging down to
anti-Diego
the
at all.
floor. This
I'm anti-Diego rushing to Instagram the night of the Heisman Trophy ceremony when he came in second and saying, F you voters.
F them picks.
And then taking that party to the club and doing it again. Then he's F-bombing the entire state of Indiana. First, he F-bombed all the voters, and then he F-bombed the entire state of Indiana.
F them picks.
You know, there also seemed to be the sense that the guy's rolling deep. Why does somebody not rip the phone out of his hand? Why does somebody not say, yo, man, don't do that. You don't want to do that. Maybe you've had a few too many. Maybe you're up in your feelings. Don't do that. I don't buy that. I don't buy that. I don't buy that. He knows. You're that guy. You're that guy. Even if you came out of seemingly nowhere to be that guy, you've still had enough experience being that guy. You can't do that. It does you no good. That does not give you any clout. That does not give you any street cred. That is not, you know what that does? That's a red flag to NFL people. Fair or not. They don't want to see that. So anyway, I thought that was a very interesting evening. The right player won. The right player won. He had a better year. But Pavia is an amazing story. That guy led Vandy to where he led them and came in second. Man, all he had to do is just kind of swallow hard, suck it up, and go hug on the guy who won, congratulate him, say something like, yo, man, see you on Sundays. And then go out and party. Easy. Easy. Yeah, I guess not if you expect to dominate and win everything, but nobody dominates and wins everything. And if you looked at it objectively, you had to know you were not going to win. I don't think he looked at it objectively, and I think he really did expect to win, unless he thought that somehow that was good for brand.